Hello, and welcome to Module 4, Chapter 3.3. In this presentation, we will explore how to observe PLA-MNH groups. Observation of groups is critical to ensure the provision of supervision that effectively supports the facilitators and the groups and improves the delivery of the PLA-MNH group program. This presentation is split into 4 sections. First, we will consider the responsibilities, knowledge, and skills that PLA-MNH group supervisors need to supervise the PLA-MNH groups. Next, we will explore the knowledge that supervisors need to effectively observe PLA-MNH groups. Then we will cover what to do next after reviewing this presentation. And finally, we will also give you guidance on how to get answers to any questions you might have. Let's turn our attention first to the PLA-MNH group supervisor responsibilities, knowledge, and skills that we will be focusing on in Chapter 3.3, this chapter. As presented previously, PLA-MNH group supervisors are critical and central to the success of the PLA-MNH group approach. They are the members of the program implementation team who enable the facilitators to support the groups to achieve their objectives. To do this, PLA-MNH group supervisors have 4 key responsibilities. 1. Supervising the PLA-MNH group facilitators. 2. Reporting on PLA-MNH group progress. 3. Linking PLA-MNH groups. And 4. Building the capacity of the PLA-MNH group facilitators. In Chapter 3.3, we are concerned specifically with building capacities in relation to the first responsibility, supervising PLA-MNH group facilitators. There are 4 knowledge and skill areas that are critical for PLA-MNH group supervisors to deliver this responsibility effectively. The first 3, which are MNH knowledge, facilitation skills, and knowledge of the PLA-MNH group action cycle, have already been covered in detail in Module 3. Please refer to Chapter 4. In this chapter, we will look at the 4th knowledge and skill area that is critical for PLA-MNH group supervisors, and that's supervision knowledge and skills. As mentioned previously, we will specifically explore supervision knowledge in relation to PLA-MNH group observation in this chapter. Observing PLA-MNH groups is a great way to identify and celebrate any achievements and identify and address any challenges. Well, supervisors should regularly make visits to observe their facilitators and groups in action. During observation visits, the supervisors should focus on observing 4 things. In no particular order, these are first, to observe the meeting. They should observe the PLA-MNH group facilitator facilitating a meeting. Second, they should review the group register and notebook, which are updated by the secretary after every meeting. Third, they should consult with a wide range of PLA-MNH group stakeholders, including facilitators, committee members, group members, and other stakeholders. It is understandable that during an observation, the PLA-MNH group supervisor may not be able to observe the meeting, review the materials, and consult with all these stakeholders. However, the PLA-MNH group supervisor should endeavor to do as much as possible, as the more information they can gather, the more effectively they can supervise the group facilitators. Observations in each of these 3 areas can be guided by a simple checklist. The checklist covers the capacities of the facilitator and the group, both of which are critical to the success of the PLA-MNH group programs. Looking first at the capacities of the facilitators, during observation visits, PLA-MNH group supervisors should assess 1. The MNH knowledge of the group facilitator, the facilitation skills of the facilitators, and the knowledge of the facilitators regarding the PLA-MNH group cycle. Facilitators with all of these capacities are strong facilitators. Now, looking first at the capacities of the groups, during observation visits, PLA-MNH group supervisors should assess 1. The participation in the groups. For example, are many people participating? Are they active? Is anyone excluded from participation? Are the poorest and most marginalized able to attend? Second, capacity of leadership. For example, does the group have leaders? Are they helping or hindering the group? Does the group have committees and task forces? And do they have the capacity to lead groups as well? Third, the ability to identify M&H problems and prevention and management behaviors. For example, are the problems and behaviors identified in the group important and relevant to their respective community? Fourth, the ability to identify barriers and solutions. For example, does the group identify and try to address root causes of the problems they face? Fifth, the ability to link with others. For example, is the group linking to other stakeholders, people, groups, organizations, who can help them solve identified issues? Sixth, the ability to mobilize resources. For example, is the group able to mobilize resources to implement their solutions? Is it able to mobilize resources from within the groups and or outside the groups? Seventh, the relationship with the facilitator. For example, is the facilitator building the capacity of the group to be sustainable? And eighth, sustainability. For example, do groups feel they own the groups and their work? Are they capable of continuing the activities once the project comes to an end? Groups with all of these capacities are strong groups, more effective and sustainable. Once the supervisors have finished their observation visits using the checklist, they should use any insights gathered to provide supportive feedback to the facilitator and group members. Let's now drill down into each of these 4 areas in more detail. Starting with observing group meetings. The recommended process for observing a PLA-MNH group meeting should start with introductions. The second step is for the PLA-MNH group supervisor to explain why they would like to observe the meeting, because they would like to learn what the group is doing, they like to identify where to best support the group to become stronger, and they'd like to identify where best to support the facilitator to become stronger. The third step is gaining consent from the group to sit in on the meeting, observe what is happening, and take notes. Once consent has been granted, the meeting can start and the PLA-MNH group supervisor should assess the capacities of the facilitator and the group using the checklist. In particular, in relation to capacities of the facilitator, the PLA-MNH group supervisor should assess the following: the extent of their MNH knowledge. This is easiest to observe when the facilitator is using the picture cards. The extent of their facilitation skills. Are they engaging the group and ensuring good participation? And the extent of their knowledge of the PLA-MNH group cycle. How closely is the facilitator following the steps laid out in the facilitation manual? In relation to capacities of the group, the PLA-MNH group supervisor should assess the following: participation in the groups, leadership, the ability to identify maternal and newborn health problems, and prevention and management behaviors. This is easiest to observe during meetings 2, 3, and 4 of the cycle. The ability to identify barriers and solutions. This is the easiest to observe during meeting 5 of the cycle. And the ability to mobilize resources. This is the easiest to observe in phase 3 of the cycle. Also, they should observe the relationship between the group members with the facilitator. The final step in the process of observing a meeting is to thank the group once the meeting has ended. Now let's turn our attention to reviewing the register and group notebook. Looking first at the group register. Reviewing the register using the checklist can tell you a lot, specifically about participation in the group. First, counting up the total number of members can be instructive. Groups that have more than 30 total members tend to be more effective than groups with less than 30 total members. Second, assessing male and female membership can be helpful. Groups with both male and female members tend to be stronger than those with only female members. However, where there are male and female members, it is best that there are more female members than male members. Information of the gender of the group members can be accessed from this column in the register. Third, assessing the age of members can be helpful. Groups with adolescent members tend to be stronger than those with no adolescent members. Information of the age of group members can be accessed from this column in the register. Fourth, assessing pregnancy status of members can be helpful. Groups where most pregnant women in the catchment area join are stronger than those where few pregnant women join. Information of the pregnancy status of the group members can be accessed from this column in the register. Fifth, reviewing the dates of the meetings can give a sense of the frequency of meetings. This is helpful because groups that meet at least monthly are stronger than those that meet less frequently than monthly. Finally, assessing attendance at each meeting can be helpful. The strongest groups are those where between 10 to 13 participants attend each meeting. Any less than that may mean that the group struggle to take collective action. Any more than this may mean that participation in meetings could be compromised. Information on meeting attendance can be found by counting up totals in these columns. Since the group notebook includes the minutes of each meeting, it is another source of vital information. Reviewing it using the checklist can help to shed light on both the capacity of the facilitator and the capacity of the group. In relation to facilitator capacities, it can tell you a great deal about the facilitator's knowledge of the PLA-MNH group cycle. In particular, do the meetings suggest that the meeting objectives were achieved? In relation to group capacities, minutes on meeting 2, 3, and 4 can tell you about the ability of the group to identify maternal newborn problems and prevention management behaviors. Minutes of meeting 5 can tell you about the ability of the group to identify barriers and solutions. And minutes from meetings in phase 3 can tell you about the ability of the group to link with others and mobilize the resources they need to implement their solutions. Now let's look at the third area, consultations with PLA-MNH group stakeholders. Being in the community on an observation visit provides an opportunity for the PLA-MNH group supervisor to speak with a wide range of stakeholders. Particularly important people to speak to might include the facilitator, the group committees, other members of the groups, and also other maternal and newborn health stakeholders, including community, traditional, and religious leaders, amongst others. These groups are well placed to provide critical insights. Interviewing them using the checklist can provide information on the capacity of the facilitator and the capacity of the group. In relation to facilitator capacities, they can help to understand the level of facilitation skills and knowledge of the PLA-MNH group cycle. In relation to group capacities, discussions with the stakeholders can shed light on the capacities of the group leaders, the extent to which the group has been able to link with others to help solve their identified problems, the abilities of the groups to mobilize the resources they need, the relationship between the group and the facilitator, and the extent to which the group will be able to continue their activities once the project comes to an end. Finally, let's look at how the PLA-MNH group supervisor can use any insights gathered during their observation to provide supportive feedback to the facilitator and group members. The supervisor can use the checklist to guide the support they give. For example, if at the end of the observation visit, the supervisor has observed any good practice by the facilitator and/or the group, then they can celebrate this achievement with the facilitator, committee, and group members. On the other hand, if any concerns have arisen about the capacity of the facilitator or the group, then they may be able to provide some on-the-spot problem-solving and coaching support. Alternatively, particularly where they are seeing similar issues coming up with several facilitators, they may provide coaching at the next peer learning meeting. The peer learning meeting will be covered in detail in the next chapter, chapter 3.4. At the end of the observation visit, the PLA-MNH group supervisor should write a record in their notebook. Again, they can use the checklist to frame this record, listing any positives and negatives they have observed in relation to facilitator and group capacities. They should also list any actions taken and any further actions needed, so these can be followed up at a later date. So what should you do now that you have reviewed this presentation? First, we recommend that you update the Module 4 Progress Tracker. Second, we encourage you to do exercise 3.3.1 to reinforce your learning. And if you do have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us by email or phone. One of the team will be happy to help. Enjoy the course.